Greetings loved ones, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm doing a big sis advice vid on basically just growing up, coping with change, moving out, that whole kind of a thing. Like when you're around 18 and things are starting to change a lot, your friends are going to college, you're not sure what you want to do with your life. You don't know if you want to go to college either, if you want to stay at home and work, or what you want to do, where you want to move. Maybe you did move out, maybe things are changing rapidly, your friends are changing, you don't know what's going on. This is the video for you, okay? I'm gonna calm you down, tell you that we've all been through it. Well, not all of us, but at some point, you know, we have to take on a little bit of change and figure out how to re-navigate the world now that things are very different and you're not in high school anymore. Or maybe you are still in high school and you're just like, what the heck? On Twitter, I basically got two separate suggestions to film this video. First was from Alexa saying, big sis advice on coping with change and growing up. I'm going into my senior year of high school and I'm low-key freaking out. And then Sarah said, somebody already said this, but something about coping with change and moving somewhere new. So I'm gonna tackle those topics today. I also asked on my Instagram, which is just at Meghan Hughes, for you guys to send in just questions that you want me to like hone in on when it comes to these topics. So I am going to start by, I guess, just sharing my own personal situation with all of this and how I coped with it, and so you guys know that I'm in the same boat, okay? Or I was. So when I was 17, I graduated high school a year early. So when I was a sophomore, I made the decision that I wanted to do that. And then in my junior year, I basically took my senior year online. And then during my junior year, I was also taking SATs and ACTs because I felt like I had to, and I didn't really know if I wanted to go to college, but my parents wanted me to go to college, which most parents do, let's be honest. I mean, some are cooler about it than others, but others are just like, hey, this is what I did, so go. But I was really just coping with like, hey, I want to move out to LA. That was my plan, was to graduate and move to LA and not stay in Georgia and go to an in-state school. If you guys haven't been following me for that long, I grew up in Georgia in like suburban area, kind of outside of Atlanta, like 30 minutes. And so I grew up in like that kind of a small bubble. And by the time I was like 16, 17, I just wanted to get the hell out of Georgia. I didn't want to live in the South anymore. I had already started visiting LA for like work stuff and whatnot, so it seemed like the promised land to me. And Finley and I joke about this sometimes, like, you either go to college or you go to California. Because that's what so many people do, and we both ended up in California. And I'm happy with my decision of not going to school, but this isn't a video about like, hey, don't go to college. I don't care what you do. Follow your dreams. Go to college if you please, okay? Or don't. Who gives a crap? But basically, I had to deal with the change of like growing up really fast and just saving money to be able to move out there on my own. My parents set this standard with me of just like, hey, you have to save at least $10,000 and then you can move to California. So I had a little bit of like money to fall back on, that whole shebang. But when I moved out there, I had like a whole new group of friends, really just all of my internet friends that had also moved out there that summer. And so I didn't really have the initial shock of moving somewhere new and having to make all new friends because I already knew them from online, and it was like the same in real life as I'd been seeing them over the years anyways, going to like YouTube conventions and whatnot. So it wasn't different for me. I just had a group of people there that I really loved and was acquainted with, and it was a great time. I felt like I was living like my normal early party years of college in California instead, not going to school, which was fun. And I feel like it helped me develop as a person, you know, get some experiences under my belt in the real world, if you will, while I was also still doing YouTube and just doing my main job thing, which was just making vids, podcast, merch, all the stuff. But it wasn't until I moved from California to Oregon with my partner Finley, where we live now, that we really had to deal with like, oh wait, we have no friends. Because in LA, we just had such a convenient life of like, all of these people being there who we were friends with from the internet and had just translated into real life. And we just had that sweet, sweet friend convenience of like, that's such a big city. You can see so many people and call them up to hang out literally whenever you want. Although LA is a pretty flaky city, but we still had some really good friends, you know? I'm not trying to say that we didn't see people. It was very great. And then moving here, I talked a lot about basically just like having no friends when we first moved here, how we were dealing with that. It was pretty hard on our mental health, honestly, because we only had each other, which is like, I mean, I love Finley, he's my rock and I'm his, but I don't think that we should be spending all of our time only together, because even if you love someone and you're in a relationship, you need to be getting other things from other relationships too. You know, you got your friends that you go out to the movies with or do book club with or go and get wine and gossip with the girls. Like, you have separate friends that maybe your partner is not there to hang out with all the time. And I was just looking for that. I made a lot of friends in the beginning, my friends Annalie and Natalie, from shooting with them. And I also was doing meetups like last summer to just get out there and meet people, all the Oregonian folks that I wanted to spend time with, you know? So I am really, really grateful for the internet in that regard. And I realized that maybe it's a little bit harder if you don't have like a following to go and just organize people to meet up together. But that being said, the internet is really great for, you know, like Facebook and stuff like that. You can go on and find like open mics around to go to, or maybe like an invitation to a party in Portland or something, wherever you are, you know? And I also think that people who work jobs where they have to go into work and see their coworkers and it's not just them doing the one job, like socializing with your coworkers is so great for your mental health as well, and like working a job where you're just seeing so many faces all the time. So that was just kind of a lot all at once, but I've been through it, you know? I've changed places, I've moved out, I've dealt with the hoopla that is going back home to Georgia and not knowing who the fuck my friends are friends with anymore, because they obviously naturally moved on and made other friends that I don't personally know, whether it be in college or in their day-to-day life, their work. You know, all of my friends are just living different lives now, and it is hard to keep up with, truly. Like, I go home and I'm like, who is Bobby? When did you start hanging out with Bobby? You've known him for 2 years, dude. Where have I been? You know what I mean? And like dealing with that kind of disconnect of like, okay, we still talk, and when we get back together, it's like the same as it always was with our connection, but it's a little different, you know? Like, you're out of the loop on certain things. You don't know what the fuck's going on. You don't know where they're working, if they're still in college, if they got more courses to take. It's just like a lot, you know? So I'm going to now go to Instagram and get a couple of these questions just so I stop fucking going off on a tangent here. And I basically got a lot of questions in the realm of dealing with friends when they don't like seeing you grow or change in a different way than them, or just growing out of friendships in general and not realizing that a friendship doesn't serve you anymore. So that was a huge thing for me, kind of more in the realm of like leaving LA, because I still have a lot of close friends in LA, love them dearly, but also there was a lot of like personality types there that I met that I was like, oh damn, you know, like we don't really click. And I realized that we like each other on a base surface level, you know, as people, but this friendship in general, it does not serve me. So how do I move on from that in a healthy way? Or maybe it's a toxic scenario and you need to like cut the ties with someone because they're just impeding on your mental health and it's no good. It's not a beneficial relationship, you know? So if you're in kind of like a toxic friendship, I really just suggest like not seeing that person anymore and kind of doing like a friendship breakup. Just let them know like, yo, I do not have the time, space, energy, whatever it might be to continue this friendship with you right now. I'm gonna hit you up when I can do that physically, mentally, all of the things. I had to do this recently, honestly, because a person in my life was just taking a lot of energy out of me. And the friendship was causing me more stress than it was pleasure, which is something that I feel like people feel guilt about, like, oh, but they're hitting me up to hang out. But it's like, if somebody acknowledges that you're a good person and they want to spend time with you, that does not mean that you have to feel feel the exact same way about them. We can pick our friends, you know? We don't have to like be guilted and shamed into hanging out with people just because we feel like we have to, you know? Like, you're a grown-ass individual. Just tell them that you don't want to hang out with them anymore, but do it in, I know that that's hard to do, you know? It was hard for me to do, but I basically just said what I told you guys. Like, I don't have the time, space, energy to like fulfill this friendship with you right now, so give me a couple months, I'll hit you up, you know? And if that person continues to hit you up, they're just not getting the message. But in regards to what somebody asked about like changing in ways that your friends don't necessarily align with, I actually have been talking to Finley about this recently in regards to like sustainability and like being more eco-conscious people than we were in the past. And like, we care about that stuff now, so obviously it like trickles into our daily connections and conversations. So when we go back home and we see people that we used to hang out with, but we are like different emotionally or mentally, we have different belief systems, it's really hard to like, well, not really hard, but it's kind of hard to continue like talking about things that you just don't give a fuck about anymore. So if you changed in a way where obviously you think for the better, like I'm not partying that much anymore, I don't relate to like doing that anymore, I grew up, you know, I grew out of that stage of life, but you're still at home doing that, I'm sorry if you think that I'm a piece of shit or that I'm like, you know, some on my high horse because I grew out of doing that, but like, you will eventually too. And if you don't, fucking fine, you'll find other people to party with, you know? I'm just using that party analogy for reference, but it could really just equate to anything, you know, other people not caring about certain facets of your life. Like, your genuine friends should be genuinely interested in what you're passionate about. And if you don't find that you guys align anymore, or they're too critical about the things that you're interested in, you don't have to see them anymore. You know, I think that we just care way too much about like feeling like we have to continue a relationship with somebody, even though it's like you could part in a healthy way and just kind of ease back on seeing them as much. Maybe you don't hit them up every time you go home to visit or whatever it might be, you know? But that doesn't mean that you have to be like, hey, fuck you, we don't get along anymore and you need to get on my level or else we can't be friends. It's like, sometimes people just stop serving us or we stop understanding them, you know? Like, I had a close group of probably like 7 or 8 girlfriends in high school. When I go home now, I see like 4 of them, maybe, you know? And it's like, I don't have bad blood with any of those girls anymore. I don't have any kind of sharp, you know, cutting the ties situations, but it's like, we just know that if we were to hang out, it wouldn't be the same, and neither of us are like, we don't care to continue it because we're like, you're doing your thing, I'm doing mine. We're moving on with our lives. So to answer another question I got asked, basically, how do you accept that you're gonna leave your family, in parentheses, my mom, and live your own life? I think that that truly comes back to like letting go and being able to flourish and start your life. You know, we have this like obvious attachment to our mothers and our fathers and whatever parental figures brought us up in our life, you know, owing them that kind of like, I'm so grateful for what you did for me. I don't know how I'm gonna like operate in my life once I go off to college or go out and move on my own and I have to like feed myself and work to live where I live. But you just gotta like bite the bullet, just cut the cord and move right on, you know? Obviously you can have some kind of tender goodbye, tell them that you're so grateful for everything that they did, but like baby birds gotta fly away and leave the nest at some point, you know? You can't, well, I mean, you can live with your parents forever if you wanna do that, but obviously you have to like come to terms at some point that you're gonna need to start living your own life. And I realized that that's hard. I feel like it was a lot easier for me because I was already kind of like financially dependent and I already had the mindset of like, oh, I'm working for myself, I can pay my rent, I know how to cook like 2 things, like I'll be good moving out, you know? And I figured it out. You're gonna figure it out, you know? You can call your mom whenever you want. You can stay in contact, FaceTime. We love a good FaceTime. I also got a shit ton of questions about like budgeting, how to pay for rent, bills, all that stuff, saving money, financial stress. We all face it at some point. And I would love to make a video just about like good saving money tips, how to budget your life and all that stuff. So comment down below if you would like to see a like money saving video from me, just tips on budgeting in general. But I would say my number one thing is if you're moving out, like you gotta have a savings account with like at least a couple $1,000s. I feel like it's a lot harder just to move out and not have anything to fall back on when it comes to like, hey, maybe you lose your job when you move out there, or things don't align or work out in the way that you thought they were going to. I have friends who went through a very similar situation to this very recently. They moved to a new place. They thought they had a job locked down, and then it did not provide. And then they were living off their savings for a hell of a lot of time. And now they're just moving back home because they're like, okay, we could not financially do that, you know? So like having that savings account to fall back on is gonna be your Band-Aid, you know? It's gonna be your safety net, and you need it. I needed that. So I would say obviously just try to make stuff at home, buy bulk, buy groceries, just try to learn a recipe or two, because ordering takeout all the time, going out to eat, at least where I lived in LA, was so expensive to go and do that. It's a very expensive habit. And obviously just like keep in mind that you can shop just sustainably and secondhand. You can get all of your stuff, your decor for your new house, secondhand or off Craigslist, off Facebook Marketplace, you know, from friends, whatever it might be. Go to your local Goodwill and get your couch, all that kind of stuff. You know, you don't need to buy it all brand new or from IKEA. Like you can go and figure out different ways. And that is a lot cheaper. So I think just like being more mindful about your purchases, those like initial purchases of what you're putting down. And obviously if you have like a big budget to like decorate your place all beautifully, then hats off to you, that's fucking great. But just start small, you know? Don't get too stressed out about everything that you're gonna need to buy, because shit, dude, it is a lot. I mean, you don't think about like toilet paper holders if you don't have one in your wall, or like dish towels and pots and pans and dishes and silverware and stuff that you need to like initially buy to move into your first place on your own, because like your parents just always had that stuff around. You didn't think about it. You know, a trash can, shit like that, a bed frame, you're like, why would I need that? I mean, obviously you can make a bed frame out of pallets that you find off the side of the road, little life hack for you there. But yeah, just try to find everything as cheap as you can. Don't get too stressed out about making ends meet, because at first it's going to be fucking hard, you know, just to like kind of buy everything and put in that initial investment. But after you buy those little things, you'll be chilling. You're gonna be living, baby. You can just continue on making your paychecks and buying little decor things along the way. Just get your staples when you first move in, okay? Staples are great, and then you can get more creative with it as the days go on, or the months, years. Takes time. I also got a lot of questions about just like living alone and the loneliness aspect of things. If you're not moving out with a roommate, or going to college with a roommate, or whatever it might be, not moving in with your sister initially like I did. I lived on my own right after I lived with my sister for 2 years. And you know, when I think back to that time, I'm like, it was fine. It was good. I needed to do that for my mental health, you know, just like figure out how to do it on my own, but I wouldn't want to do that again. I love living with Finley. I think that we work great together and it's wonderful. So I'm like, I wouldn't, you know, go and move out on my own again. But I am happy I did it. I guess just tips for the loneliness is like, call up your friends, hang out with them, FaceTime your friends back home if you want to keep a nice connection, keep in touch, call your mom, all that kind of stuff, you know. Internet friends were really my go-to a lot of the time, or like, you know, keeping those connections via our devices. And then obviously just hanging out with people IRL, not secluding yourself or like isolating yourself in your new place to where it's just you all the time, because then maybe, yeah, it can get lonely. But like, if you can afford it, get a pet. That definitely helped me a shit ton when I adopted Larry, my bae, my little rescue friend. He was just wonderful. He came into my life at such a great time when I was first living on my own, probably like for 8 months or so. I think I got him after that. And it was just so great to have a little buddy around. And he's still just my little buddy. So yeah, if you can afford a pet, definitely get a pet, because it definitely aids in the loneliness and it gets you out the freaking house. I'm not saying that that's like the solution to everything, but it definitely helped me a little bit. And yeah, just going out and doing things for sure helps a lot. And not being afraid of like spending alone time with yourself, because I feel like that was such a great time of self-discovery for me. You know, who am I when I'm alone? Just love to hang out, love to write, read, whatever. So just do those things. You can go for walks alone, explore alone. I also got a lot of questions just about like adjusting to living with your significant other or moving in with your partner in general. And personally, I did not find it to be weird, different, hard in any regard. I feel like the number one thing that maybe causes people stress is like putting too much weight on one person, but we have our own like tasks that we do. So just like dividing up the chores, dividing up the expenses, we split everything 50-50, rent, bills, whatever it might be, you know? I also don't feel like at any point I've ever been annoyed at living with my partner. And I feel like some couples, you know, they just don't live well together. And from personal experience, that just wasn't my experience. We live great together. I love spending time with him because he's my best fucking friend. And maybe this is a cliche answer to say, but just like, if you love each other, you'll work out any situation or issue that may arise. But yeah, moving in with my partner has been great. I mean, I feel like we found the place that we loved and wanted to move into pretty easily. Like we just took road trips up here every couple months or so and would tour places. I get a lot of questions about like how to move out really with your partner or like to a completely different state. And it's like, if you have the budget to go and travel there and spend like a week or so just touring places that you find off of Zillow or wherever. We found the place that we're living now off of Zillow, and I just freaking love that site, okay? We were basically just at a park one day, we were scrolling through Zillow, and we were looking in like one specific area west of Portland, like around Forest Grove, and then we were both just like, oh shit, we haven't even checked east of Portland, so let's check over there. And we found one listing, we went and toured it the next day, and it just bing bang boom worked out so well. So just, yeah, focusing in on one area, maybe road tripping up and exploring the area and being like, yeah, I want to move here, you know, take the time to research the town, figure it out, spend a little bit of time there, maybe rent an Airbnb for the night or some shit. I don't know, maybe stay with a friend who lives around the area and just do your explorations. That was a random tangent to get onto off of the question of living with your partner, but I feel like I answered that. And then someone asked, is paying for everything as hard as people make it out to be, and does it get scary home alone? No, I don't think it's as hard as people make it out to be. You know, if you're working a job, you can make ends meet and just figure out a like real life budget that would work for you. So no, I don't think it's that hard to make ends meet. Just like don't over budget or overestimate what you can spend your money on. Like don't move into a place that's too much rent for you to pay. You know, do everything in a comfortable equation. Budget it all in, write it all down of what your monthly expenses might be, rent, power, all that stuff. And does it get scary being home alone? Yes. And which is funny because I feel like it's scarier being home alone out here in the country than it was when I lived on my own in an apartment in a big city. Although I did have my random scares sometimes at sketchy places around my apartment complex, and then running back and just having to be alone in my apartment. I would just call people if I ever got scared living in that one unit with just me and my dog. But now when I'm home alone and it's just me and my dog again and Finley's out of town or whatever, it is scary. It's scary indeed. Just because I feel like it's so quiet, so dark. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know. If I hear any noise, I'm like, what was that? But I live in a very safe area. Like nothing is gonna happen to me. So I always know that it's irrational. It's irrational thoughts. And then my last question I'm going to answer here is, what is one thing you knew you needed to change but found so difficult? And I would say the initial move was what I needed to change but found so difficult. Especially when we were leaving LA, because like I had, just like I said earlier, a lot of friends there, and it was really hard to just be able to like leave all of that behind truly and start kind of over somewhere new. And it was very hard at first to figure out how to navigate like getting out and meeting real good friends, but that shit takes time, you know? Like I knew that making new friends in a new place was something that obviously I needed for both Finley and I to survive as human beings, you know? But it was so hard to like allow that time. I think like we didn't make our first good friends until probably like 10 months in, you know? Like that shit does take a little bit of time. So you just gotta give give it the time, give it the effort, go out there and make your best case at showing up to places and trying to socialize with new peeps and not just staying isolated and secluded in your home, because that is easy to do, especially when you live in the country. And then another thing, just to kind of conclude this, is identify why you want to leave. Personally, for Finley and I, we're just like, LA as a city does not serve us anymore. We don't really feel happy here anymore. Like, yes, we do have friends and we're social and doing whatever, but like, this is not where we want to be forever, you know? And why not just get out now if we're feeling these ways of like, oh my God, we love Oregon. We take so many trips up there. Let's just go there because it's so happy and we feel so happy being around all the trees and in the forest. Let's try it out, you know? So just identifying what it is that's making you want to leave. Like maybe you just feel stuck in your hometown and you want to move out, move on from all the people and the places there. I understand, my dudes. I had to leave Georgia and it's great to go back and visit now, but I couldn't move back there. I know that. I just wouldn't be able to do, I wouldn't want to do it, you know? And I feel like a lot of the times, you know, when you're like 17, 18, that whole kind of era, you're like, what the hell do I want to do with my life? You know? And if it's like, hey, I want to go and like go hiking a lot and go and move out to nature, go and do that. Or hey, I want to move to Chicago and live in the big city or something like that. I don't freaking know what you want to do. Just identify like what the goal is, why you want to leave. And that's probably going to be the hardest to do, is just identify and save up enough money to like contribute to getting to that point B, you know, from point A. But I just encourage you to do so if you're feeling unsatisfied, you know? And hey, we all grow up, we all move on from places that don't serve us anymore, and friends and all of that stuff. And we find ourselves in new facets of life, and we'll hang on to the people who still love and support us throughout all of the years and all of the changes of ways of life. And those are the good people to keep around, am I right, folks? But in general, just give your life time and thought, and don't do anything too impulsively, because then maybe you won't have a nice safety net to fall back on. And don't burn too many bridges so you can't go back home, okay? That's my main tips, I guess. I don't know. This video was kind of just a long rant of sorts, a long tangent of some advice and personal experience, and I don't really know what it was, but I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up for me. Subscribe to my channel for more Big Sis Advice vids like this and other things that I do. Ring the notifications bell if you would like to be notified when I upload. Am I on 2 or 3? I don't know. Stay smiling. Love you guys. See you in the next one. Goodbye.